Welcome to Utah Valley Laser Assault, where we'll be going over Laser Storm, the world's best, most competitive laser tag experience. We'll be going over the rules of the field and the rules of the players, as well as some positioning and tips and tricks. The first most obvious thing about Laser Storm is the field. It is physically divided, unlike any other field that you normally participate in. These walls are not crossable by those on the separate teams of this game. You cannot cross over them, though there will be an opening to get into position before and after the game ends and begins. Because the field is so important to the game, you are not permitted to move any of the walls or barrels. Should you discover any map issues, like walls that have been moved, please notify a staff member. The main features of the map of Laser Storm include the attacker's lane, the support lane, or aka the finger, and the pod zones. These are going to be the most important landmarks that you should know while you play the game. Let's talk about the number one thing, which is the pod zone. Residing at the top of the attack lane, each team has a lane that is unobstructed to go into the enemy base. There, you will find at the very end a clearly designated triangle indicating where you need to stand to legally score base hits on the other team. When you score a base hit, you will get 5 points, but there's a catch. The base is only active to be shot once every 16 seconds, where then it activates and you can shoot it. But if you're too slow, the base will shoot back at you and deactivate you. So you need to time your attacks correctly. It is a high risk, high reward part of the game that makes this game incredibly satisfying. There's also the support or the finger. This is another lane that goes only about halfway, but its intention is to send a player to go in and clear out any defenders so that the attackers have an easier time making their way to the end of the attack zone. Should you find anybody that is outside the pod zone and getting pod hits, please report that to a staff member. There should be some people watching the game that can help verify your claims. Something that does happen in the game of laser tag is equipment malfunction. If this happens, there's usually a vest that is placed in your defensive zone where you can quick swap to a new vest, or sometimes a staff member will have one as well. And this is permitted should your equipment break down. You can quickly swap out. Other than that, the rules play like any other laser tag game. Laser tag basic rules that include in this game mode are that you actually only have one hit before you need to go and recharge, rather than having multiple. You also have a decreased ammo count, though it is substantial, so you can still lay on the trigger. But you will find yourself charging more, but that's because there needs to be this risk-reward type in this game, that if you get hit, you need to go back and charge so the enemy can make plays. But that makes this game completely different from any other laser tag game because you don't just stay out on the field. You get hit, you go back. Please try not to run, though I know that you really want to get to your pod zone quickly, but just know that running can result in collisions with your fellow team members. There's also no vulgarity and offensive language. Do not climb on walls, and do not cover your sensors. Covering your sensors is probably one of the worst ones because if you are caught covering sensors, your entire score will be stricken from the record. So don't do it. Now for some positioning and tips and tricks. You have a team of 5, so it's good to assign a role to your team members so they know exactly what they're going to be doing during the game. You can switch up positions, and we'll get into that, but knowing what you're going to do in a game helps you on a strategic level. The first position is attacker. These guys are shooting up the lanes and getting lots of points. They are quick and agile, and they are also accurate. Their job is to get to the pod zone at the end of the map. They are supported by our second position, the support, whose main position is to go into the other lane to make sure that they can eliminate enemy defenders so the attacker gets an easier time coming up. It's another type of offensive role where the supporter will get lots of frags. The third one is defense. Defense is incredibly important, and usually teams have about 2 defenders because as the attacking team comes in, these defenders need to realize they need to be in somewhere around that pod protecting the zone, but also make sure you're switching up your positions so that you're not predictable. They also need to be highly accurate and communicative so that if they are out, other team members can come and reinforce. The last position is the one that I like to call the jungler. They're the ones that need to have really good situational awareness of what's going on the map, because their job is to kind of hang back at the defense or support to get kills, maybe partway up the attack lane, but when the attacker has successfully pushed and they make a call, the jungler is ready to push and go in as well. The jungler will move between different positions. It's kind of like the safety. They can go to defense, they can go to offense. Some other tips and tricks of the game do include making sure that you're hitting the headsets, and be aware that when you bring your gun up, you are presenting 3 targets for your gun. I still do it because that's how I shoot, but if you're able to separate your sensors, you're less likely to be hit. One of the biggest tips that I can recommend is communication. Because this is a strategic game, you need to communicate with your team members. You need to call out when you've hit somebody. I usually count down with 1, 2, so people know how many people I've hit, so my jungler can come up and reinforce me knowing that it's safer to do so. It's also really good to communicate when an enemy is in your pod zone so that people can come and play on defense. Communicating is key, and you can yell out things, but also make sure that you don't break the dead man's rule, which is you cannot communicate with your team while you are hit, because you could give away enemy positions that you just went and infiltrated. Now, when it comes to breaking rules, there are rules in the rule book that talk about increasing infractions. The first warning that you get does result in a -1 point to your team score. The second is 2 points, but after that, third warning is 5 points, fourth warning is 10 points off the score, and the fifth results in a disqualification. So follow the rules. Now you know everything there is to know about Laser Storm. So get out there and get shooting.